Welcome to the Falls Township Board of Supervisors meeting for November 1st, 2011. We'll begin our meeting, as always, with the salute to the flag, please. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Mrs. Pullum, call the roll, please.
Mr. Zepka?
Here.
Mrs. Lasky?
Present.
Mr. Harvey?
Here.
Mr. Dents?
Here.
Mr. Snipes?
Here.
Okay, thank you very much. We're going to begin our meeting. We have three certificates of appropriateness that we're going to be hearing, just for refresh people's memories. Homes that are in the historic district of Fallsington. If there's work that's going to be done in the exterior of the building, one of the conditions, of course, one of the things that you know when you buy into that neighborhood is that you have to sort of abide by the historic preservation to try and keep the historic nature of the town, of the village. And so we have a historic review board that hears some of these proposals, and they give their recommendations to us, and then we approve or disapprove. I don't know if we've ever actually disapproved of any of these, but we have three of them. And the first we're going to hear is from 35 Old Locust. This is for a vinyl fence. Mr. Gray?
Yes, as mentioned, this is 35 Old Locust Lane. This is an installation of a 4-foot-high aluminum wrought fence. This was approved by the Board of Historic Review, the HARB Board, at its meeting on October 24th. The name of the applicant is Eugene and Melody Fox. The board is asked to consider this certificate of appropriateness.
Okay. I see Mr. Fox is here. Board members have any comment or question for Mr. Fox regarding it? This was approved, as Mr. Gray said, unanimously by the review board. Mr. Zupka?
No, I have none.
No? Mrs. Vislowski?
None, except I live in Fallsington, and I think they're beautiful.
Mr. Snipes?
I was just curious about the length of the fence. That's the only question I have. Does it say?
This is 8 foot in length, connected to a 6 foot high PVC.
See that?
Yeah. Okay.
It's been approved by the Historic Review Board, so I don't have any other questions.
Okay. Mr. Dents?
No questions.
None either. Okay. Is there a motion then to grant the certificate of appropriateness to 35 Old Locust?
So moved.
I'll second it.
Motion made and seconded. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Okay. All right, second item again, certificate of appropriateness for 121 Yardley Avenue. This is for replacement roof. Mr. Gray?
Yes, this is for 121 Yardley Avenue. This is partial replacement of the existing roof shingles over the kitchen with a GAF Shakewood Timberline asphalt shingles. This also was approved by the Historical Review Board at its meeting on October 24th. The name of the applicant is Bill Crawford. The board is asked to consider this certificate of appropriateness.
All right, I see Mr. Crawford's here as well. And we have some photos here that show, the roof and the house itself. Should be noted too, Mr. Crawford's a member of the Historic Review Board. He did not vote on the issue. Was obviously abstained because it is his property. Comments or questions, Mr. Zupka?
None.
Mrs. Vislowski?
I like the shingles, and I'm jealous.
Mr. Snipes?
No questions.
Mr. Dents?
None.
And I have none. Okay. I guess I should ask for public comment with the last issue. I didn't imagine there actually be any, but yeah, okay. All right, is there a motion then to grant the certificate of appropriateness for 121 Yardley Avenue?
So moved, Mr. Chairman.
Motion by Mr. Snipes, second by Mr. Dents. Okay, all in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right. And the third item, certificate of appropriateness for replacement windows at 10 Yardley Avenue. Mr. Gray.
Yes, 10 Yardley Avenue, replacement of existing windows with heat gate, Series 1700 double-hung vinyl windows with grids. This also was approved by the Historical Review Board at its meeting on October 24th. The name of the applicant is Ed Brown. The board is asked to consider this certificate of appropriateness.
All right, again, we do have some photos here. Mr. Brown, I think there he is. All right, Mr. Brown is here. And photos of what the windows are going to look like, as well as the existing windows. Comments or questions from board members? Mr. Zupka?
No, I have none.
Mrs. Vislowski?
Only a comment. Ed, I didn't know you lived in Falsington until you made this application, and I've known you since you were in diapers almost.
Mr. Snipes?
No, no questions, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Dents?
No, no questions.
No, and I have none. Any public comment? See no hands. Okay, is there a motion to grant the certificate of appropriateness for replacement windows at 10 Yardley Avenue?
So moved.
Seconded.
Motion made and seconded. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. All right, 3 for 3. Okay. Okay, item number 4 is conditional use hearing for CSC Sugar, LLC. Mr. Gray, excuse me, want to introduce the item, or no, we open up the...
If you
conditional
make
use
a
first?
motion to open the hearing, I'll
Right.
then state what it is for the record, and then we can begin.
Okay, conditional use hearing for CSC Sugar, LLC. Is there a motion to open the hearing?
So moved.
I'll second it.
Motion made and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Okay, Mr. Clark.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This is a conditional use hearing. The applicant is CSC Sugar LLC. The property is tax parcel number 13-028-062-002, Township of Falls, Bucks County, Pennsylvania. This is an application requesting conditional use to permit an industrial or manufacturing use on a portion of the property for refining sugar at the premises located at 200 Rock Run Road. Notice of this hearing has been published in the Courier-Times on October 21st and again on October 25th. The applicant is represented by Thomas Hecker, Esquire.
Members of the board, good evening.
Evening.
Tom Hecker, pinch hitting tonight for Mr. Maloney, who was involved in a matter in Philadelphia and couldn't be here in time for the meeting. We're here tonight for your consideration, as Mr. Clark has indicated, of a conditional use application that has been submitted for CSC Sugars. CSC Sugars is looking to bring its manufacturing facility to the township. CSC Sugars, as you'll hear in a moment, is one of the largest manufacturers of raw sugars to the United States, cane refineries. This is not a land development. There's no new building that is proposed. They'll be occupying a portion of an existing building on the site. What brings us to the conditional use proceeding is the fact that the ordinance requires conditional use for consideration by the board in the PIP district if it is not one of the manufacturing uses specifically mentioned in the LI district. And this process, although it involves sugars, involves some caustics, and that is the reason for the requirement of conditional use, which we'll explain to you. You'll hear from Mr. Paul Farmer, the president and CEO of CSC Sugars. We'll tell you all about CSC Sugars, what they do and what they're going to do here in Falls Township. And you're also going to hear from Chris Wilson, who'll talk to you about the caustic use, the small quantities that are used and how it's used. So with that introduction, I'd like to introduce Mr. Farmer, if I may. Paul?
Good evening. My name is Paul Farmer. I'm the president.
Mr. Hecker, he'll need to be sworn, so. Yeah, he will.
Thank you.
Yes. Good evening. My name is Paul Farmer. I'm president and CEO and a principal owner of CSC Sugar. CSC Sugar has been was formed in 2004, but it's the same basic business that I've been operating for the last 20 years, previously under the name of Commodity Specialist Company. I have to make one correction for my attorney's his statements. We're not the largest raw sugar refiner in the United States. We're the largest liquid sugar manufacturer in the United States. It's a little bit of a difference. The only difference is maybe about 10 million tons. Our principal business for the last 30 years, as long as I've been in the sugar business, has been supplying the raw sugar refineries in the United States, like Domino, with raw sugar, basically with shiploads. And when I first entered the business in the 1970s, there were refineries all up and down the East Coast. As a matter of fact, I think there were at least 2 or 3 in Philadelphia. Over time, due to high fructose corn syrup and consolidation in the industry, there are basically only 2 on the East Coast. There's one in Baltimore, actually there's 3. One in Baltimore, one in Yonkers, New York, and one in Savannah, Georgia. That's it. So you see all these old factories, they're now casinos in Philadelphia and other things around. And I've always had this dream of bringing a sugar refinery back to the area. So about 5 years ago, we entered into the liquid sugar business and came up with a new process to basically simplify sugar refining, but but specifically for liquid sugar, not for granulating sugar. And we found that we've been quite successful with it in other areas. We have 5 other operating plants in the United States. And we've finally gotten to the point where we're going to try to bring a refinery back to the Philadelphia area. And the key is that it needs to be close to the water. So we've ended up in this town. We think this is a great place to do business. Our intention is to bring in shiploads of sugar from places like Brazil and Guatemala of raw sugar. And I've got some samples.
Yeah, if you're speaking, you have to use a microphone. Sorry, but I just want to let you know, so.
Those are samples of raw sugar. That sugar came from from Brazil, from a shipload that we just recently brought into the KIPC. That's the liquid sugar that we actually manufacture from the raw sugar. And the difference between our product and other refiners' product is that we don't actually take all the color out. We can, but we only take the color out of the sugar that's necessary, because color in sugar is just like color in grape juice. It's an antioxidant. It's good for you. So it makes no sense to take all the color out and make a clear liquid sugar if you're going to put it into Hershey's syrup, right? By not taking the color out, our costs are much lower. We use a lot less wastewater, or our wastewater is dramatically less, and the energy cost is only about a third. Having said all that, our big customers today are companies like Unilever, Snapple, Dean Foods, the largest dairy company in the United States, and we've got an overwhelming support for our product. But what we need to do now is basically build this refinery, and we're well underway to getting there. One of our larger customers happens to be Snapple, the stuff that's made from the best stuff on earth. The sugar that they use is a special kind of sugar. It's called invert sugar. Invert sugar is a sugar where the molecules of the 2 different types of sugar are broken so that they can't recrystallize, so you don't end up with a bunch of crystals in the bottom of the jar. So for this product, that stuff on earth, we need to make invert liquid sugar. And the simple way of doing that is that you add a little bit of hydrochloric acid to liquid sugar, which lowers the pH. It lets the bonds between the fructose and the glucose separate. And then you add caustic soda, and I'm talking about very small amounts, that basically then neutralizes it, and you end up having invert sugar, which can't be recrystallized. In our entire business, we deliver to Snapple about 30 million pounds a year, and I think we're talking about using a couple of barrels a month of the actual hydrochloric acid and caustic. We already do this business in our other facility in Bridgeport, New Jersey. We've never had any accidents with us. And I've got Chris Wilson with me, who's the plant manager in our Bridgeport, New Jersey plant, and he can walk you through all the different things that we do. And in that brochure that I handed out, there's some pictures in the back there about how we handle the different acids and so on. So this is a very important product to our business. It's a good customer to us. This product's made in just about every other sugar refinery. It's nothing dramatic, but we do understand that you have to handle the chemicals correctly. So Chris Wilson will now explain how we deal with that.
Sir, before you leave the microphone, when did you make your application, and why are we being handed this tonight?
I'm not actually sure, but I know
I'm not sure what your question.
Well,
Conditional use application.
Go ahead.
The conditional use application had been submitted, several weeks ago. This is an evidentiary hearing in support of the application. So, if you're asking why we didn't submit that other information, it's the evidence in support of the application.
Thank you. Because I don't like being handed something at the last minute. And
I understand.
Okay.
But because this is an evidentiary proceeding, we're not allowed to give evidence outside the record. That's why.
Thank you. That's a good response.
Thank you, Mr. Hecker. Yeah, and Mr. Wilson will have to be sworn in as well.
Okay. Yes, ma'am. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you. What we do, as Paul was saying, with our invert sugar in the Bridgeport facility, how the process works is in very small amounts. To each batch that we create for Snapple, we add about 16 pounds of hydrochloric food-grade acid and 11 pounds of caustic soda at the end of the batch to raise the pH. So we're talking in a 24-hour period, 48 pounds of hydrochloric food-grade acid a day and about 33 pounds of caustic soda a day, which equivalates to 240 pounds of hydrochloric acid a week, 960 pounds a month, or 1.7 drums of food-grade hydrochloric acid each month. And on the caustic side, 165 pounds a week is what it breaks down to, 660 pounds a month, or 1 drum, one drum per month is the equivalent that we use. I'm also an OSHA 30-hour certified trainer. All of our employees that have the opportunity to create this product for Snapple are trained with about 20 hours worth of OSHA-approved training on HAZCOM, hazardous situations, MSDS training, event of emergency training, handling training, and dispense training. Anything that goes along with that, and if they don't justify the training or pass, they're not in the process of making that product. So it's something that we take very seriously, but you can see we use very, very minimal amounts. All the PPE, every time during the batch making process, is worn at the correct times. Everything is supplied to the individuals that are making the batches. The chemicals itself are stored in storage containers. You'll see in the pictures that we gave you on the pamphlets are actually stored in their own containment systems. So if something happens to the drum while in the containment, it all stays safely contained inside. Any questions?
Chris, if you could just a moment, if I could ask you, what happens in the process? Is there a byproduct, and what happens with that byproduct?
The byproduct of?
Wastewater. What happens?
There actually is no byproduct. The hydrochloric acid and the caustic soda neutralize each other out and actually become salt.
Okay. So there's no byproduct, and then the water that's used in this process, that is transported off-site?
Yeah, well, Chris, why don't you tell them about our wastewater situation?
Yeah. No byproduct of the actual medium invert sugar making process, but the byproduct of our procedures, certain things that we do, we generate wastewater and carbon removal as well for our filtering process. The way we get rid of our wastewater in Bridgeport, New Jersey is we're actually affiliated with the Department of Agriculture, bless you, in the state of Maryland. We actually transport the wastewater up there that we generate. The farmers actually spray it on their crops, which the bugs have a tendency to attack the wastewater and leave their crops in their fields alone. And on the carbon side, I'm actually in the process of working with a bakery waste recycler in New Jersey that's actually going to look at taking our carbon, mix it in with cattle feed, and it will become part of feed, so it's in with the cattle, biodegradable. And we're looking at processes of doing that now. But in the meantime, pretty much the carbon waste is picked up by waste management and disposed of.
Okay.
Is there any questions?
I have a question.
Okay. Sure. Go ahead.
I voted for, and I'm proud that I did, for a company that appears to be one of your competitors. And there was a lot of negative activity prior to that. Activity not only came from Falls Township, but from Lower Makefield Township, since the plant was situated quite near both of us, right, the township line. And I drove to the locale, forgive me, and I inspected it, and I checked out every one of the objections. And I want to ask you the same questions that were, purported to be a reason to deny that other approval. I voted in favor of it. Will there be any residue or any kind of garbage outside your building?
As in anything, any kind of garbage outside the building will actually be in dumpsters or containment systems, nothing laying around or spread around or anything of that nature.
Are you prepared to promise this board that there will be an immaculate outdoors? Because that's what I saw when I visited that other facility in another county, and they didn't know I was coming. I went and surprised them. They didn't have time to clean house to prepare for someone to come and look critically. And, I saw beautiful stainless steel. Are you going to be using stainless steel for your manufacture, the containers or the big vats in which you store your product?
That is correct. All the piping inside of our facilities are manufactured out and made out of stainless steel.
Will there be any odor from the facility?
None that I'm aware of.
Can someone address that?
Well,
No, wait.
Mr. Wilson, you're the plant manager in Bridgeport? Is that
Correct.
correct? Is this plant going to be essentially identical to what you do there?
On a much larger scale, yes.
Okay. And is there an odor at that facility where you work?
No, sir.
How far is Bridgeport from here?
About an hour and 20 minutes.
Did you have any difficulty locating there? And when did you open your plant there?
No, ma'am, we didn't. I believe it was about 3.5 years ago.
And there were no objections from the local residents?
No, ma'am.
Thank you.
You're quite welcome. Thank you.
Let's continue with board comment and questions. Mr. Zupka?
I'm not at this time.
No? Mr. Snipes?
So were you explaining that if this is, if your operations go or as your growth goes as you are hoping it'll go, that even a larger facility is going to come to the Philadelphia area? Is that what you're saying?
No.
Or that this is the facility you're talking about?
This is the facility.
Okay. Well, I think we're glad you chose us. You were describing that the process of clearing the sugar of the color, you're not doing it as much as some others simply because you don't need to.
That's correct.
Why take it all the way down to zero if you're just going to put it back into ice cream or other things that have colors and this won't even show? And so that involves less of a chemicalized process. And
That's right. It's
potentially.
simply the difference between whole wheat and white bread. Why are you going to take out all the good stuff? And companies like Unilever, which is Ben & Jerry's, Breyers, and Good Humor, they've figured it out. That sample of sugar, the liquid sugar, which is what's called a 350 colored liquid sugar, it's basically like a light maple syrup. That actually is in Breyers vanilla ice cream, which has no colorings whatsoever. It actually makes their white ice cream whiter rather than clear liquid sugar. So we have excess demand. We can't wait to get in business. Chris's facility in Bridgeport, New Jersey is basically running at twice the intended capacity as it was originally installed. You know, we've got as much demand as we could possibly produce here. And our process is very simple. It's literally adding hot water to sugar and then running it through a filter.
I see Turkey Hill ice cream here. If you had had a picture of butter pecan, you might have had me on the hook.
Well, I can tell you that our sugar is in Turkey Hill ice cream, and as a matter of fact, it's that
I know
color
you're
sugar.
advertising it in this thing that was just handed to us tonight.
And did you tell us how much of the product is potentially going to come out of the facility every month or give us a time period?
This facility will have an installed capacity of about 120,000 tons a year, which is about twice the current capacity of our Bridgeport, New Jersey facility, which is approximately 25 to 30 trucks a day spread out through a 24-hour period.
And thank you. Mr. Chairman, were there concerns in the traffic planning and design review that we need to address?
I can
Go ahead, Mr. Hacker, if you'd like to.
indicate for the board, with regard to the letter of traffic planning and design, Township Traffic Consultants dated September 29, 2011. Our engineering consultant has been in touch with them. They are all will comply items. There are no issues that will not be addressed to their satisfaction. Okay. I also can advise you that with regard to the September 14, 2011 letter of the Township Engineer, T&M Associates, those items are also will comply items. I do not believe that there are any issues that we can't resolve to the satisfaction of the Township professionals.
Okay.
Thank you. That's all I have, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Dents?
You mentioned that the byproduct of the acid being used, you had hoped that it be used by farmers. In the meantime, is that just something that's going to be hauled away?
Well, that's not actually a byproduct of the acid. The standard liquid sugar process without invert sugar, just making regular liquid sugar, is hot water and raw sugar. And you liquefy it, and then you run it through a carbon filter, very similar to like a Brita water filter. And then you have your leftover carbon has a very small amount of sugar left in it. So it's basically an inert carbon product, just literally granulated carbon with like 2% sugar on it. So you can actually feed that to cows, and it supposedly helps with their digestion. So it's just a question of whether or not you can find the right marketplace for that. So, you know, you really have to, that really depends on how far away the dairies are and things like that.
But in the meantime, it's being hauled away?
That's correct.
Okay.
But there actually is no actual byproduct of the invert liquid sugar process, of actually making this special product for Snapple.
Okay, that's all I had.
Okay. Mr. Hecker, I know you referenced the T&M letter and the traffic planning design letter. Don't know if you have the fire marshal's letter from September 12th?
Yes, we have the fire marshal's letter. We'll comply with the fire marshal. I think he'll examine the plans when we apply for the building permit.
Okay. All right. And that, those are the questions I had. This facility is going into what is currently an industrial park, and so issues of traffic really are pretty minor, and it's very close to Tyburn Road as well, so there really isn't much, we don't have to worry about sort of trucks, even if it is 1 an hour or something like that, running through residential neighborhoods. Let's see, those are all the questions I had. Mr. Clark, comments or questions from you?
No, Mr. Hecker has addressed the T&M, the TPD, and the fire marshal letter as will comply, so I have nothing further.
Mr. Sullivan?
No, thank you.
Okay. All right, then. We can open up the pub. Yes.
You reference it's a 24-hour, 7-day-a-week operation,
Yes.
and with approximately 30 employees. Is that when you're really going, or it'll even expand from there possibly?
We're going to be really going almost from day one. I've actually, basically I've sold this product as much as a year ago, and we've been struggling to keep up with the demand from our other facilities. So the day that we're able to be in operation here, we'll pretty much be at maximum capacity right away. And we'll probably have anywhere from 45 to 60 employees, but they'll be working over 4 or 5 different shifts. So on any given point, there'll probably be 15 employees in the plant.
Okay.
And it'll be 24/7.
Thank you.
I have a question that springs from the prior one. Are you going to hire people, or are you bringing people with you?
Both.
And how many jobs do you anticipate you will provide for Falls Township people?
I would expect at least 40.
40 out of the 60?
Yeah, and on top of the jobs within this plant itself, there's actually many more jobs because, when we bring in a ship of 15 to 20,000 tons of sugar into the port, right, you've got all those stevedoring jobs like we just did. You've got the jobs of the truck drivers hauling it back and forth to our plant, our warehouse inside the KIPC. And we'll have truck drivers literally hauling the product 24 hours a day, basically a truck an hour from the KIPC to Rock Run. And then you've got the trucks even hauling it back out again. So the amount of jobs is not 40. It's probably in the hundreds.
Will you verify that you are in or not in the tax-free zone?
My understanding is that our warehouse facility that we'll use to hold the bulk raw sugar, just the big pile of raw sugar, is in the tax-free zone. I get no benefit out of that because it's an LLC and I'm a citizen of Connecticut. So the tax-free zone does me no good. So moving out and putting our facility outside on Rock Run, which is not tax-free, has no effect on me whatsoever, and we're happy to be there.
How does Connecticut figure in this?
Because in the end of the day, even if I got tax-free status by putting my refinery in the port, I would still end up paying that tax to Connecticut.
But it wouldn't come to Falls, would it?
Well, income tax wouldn't come to Falls anyway.
I'm not talking about income tax. I'm talking about tax for the Falls Township taxpayers. There are 14 waivers of tax in the tax-free zone, and that interests me.
Well, what I would tell you is we're going to use our facility inside the KIPC for storage of raw sugar. There'll be 2 employees there at any point. It's just a pile of sugar. Our actual manufacturing facility is outside of the port at Rock Run, right? And that has no tax-free status.
We just wanted to clarify it. Thank you.
Any other comments or questions from board members?
No.
Okay, all right, we can open to public comment. We have to close the hearing first. Is there a motion to close the conditional use hearing for CSU Sugar?
So moved.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Public comment. Questions? See a few hands. Motion to open public comment.
So moved.
Seconded.
All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Okay. Yes, sir. In the hat here behind. Yes, it's you, sir.
Yes, I'm Tom Wilson, 35-year resident of Falls Township. In regards to the invert sugar process, The caustic soda, which I have noted is approximately 33 pounds a day. Correct. Is that caustic soda in flake form?
No, liquid.
Liquid form?
Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you very much.
Okay. Just since Mr. Wilson wasn't on microphone, just for the record, note, that's okay. Note that the liquid, it's in liquid form, the caustic soda.
Correct, liquid.
Okay. All right. What else? Mr. Kinney.
Well, in Kenny Falls Township, I think this is a good thing to bring in our township. Gives a couple hundred jobs there, I hear. So it's a no-brainer. Put them in there, plus they're paying taxes, and that free zone's going to go away in a couple of years, I think.
14 years it was. It's not going to be a couple years.
Well, it's in there how long?
6, going into 7?
Yeah, halfway there.
We were promised at least
jobs.
10,000
We need
jobs. We
need jobs.
Mr. Kenny, may I? We were promised at least 10 to 20,000 jobs in that zone. Oh, yeah, we used Gamesa as our poster child for that.
Well, they're starting to come in there.
No, they came and they left. They went to Cambria County.
Thank you.
They're behind times.
Any other comments or questions? See no hands or motion to close public comment?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Okay, so the issue is whether or not to grant conditional use to CSC Sugar for the property 200 Rock Run Road for the manufacture of liquid sugar as presented here at this hearing. Is there a motion to grant the conditional use to CSC Sugar?
So moved, Mr. Chairman.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. Mrs. Pullen, pull the board, please.
Mr. Zepka?
Yes.
Mrs. Weslavsky?
I pass.
Mr. Harvey?
Yes.
Mr. Dents?
Yes.
Mr. Snipes?
Yes.
My vote can be recorded as an abstention.
Okay. All right. Thank you, gentlemen, very much.
And thank you, members of the board.
Mr. Farmer didn't know if you needed your samples back.
Keep them if you like.
Okay.
I'd like to keep mine.
Mr. Gray will.
Mr. Gray, yeah. Mr. Gray has.
Thanks, you.
Mr. Gray has some kids at home, I think, who probably are not sugared up. Oh, okay. Nice. Thank you very much.
Butterscotch, now you're talking.
All right.
Give those to Joan for her candy bowl.
Yeah, right.
Set for
That's
months.
right. We got some candy here from Mrs. Ruth's Candy Bowl. She's all set for a while now. All right. Item number 5 was the final land development for the learning experience, which was the daycare facility or preschool facility, excuse me, that is located or going to be located on New Falls Road near where the former water tower was. We are going to look to table that for this evening. There are some outstanding issues that our engineer, Mr. Sullivan, has with their engineer that he feels he would like some time to discuss with them. They do not meet his satisfaction. If there is a motion to table, we'll do that now. Mr. Clark, we don't have to table to a date certain, do we?
No, we do not.
All right, I think the time
We still have time on the
clock.
on the clock.
Yeah, I believe it expires in January.
January 6th.
January 6th, all right. So we obviously have almost 2 months left. And Mr. Sullivan, is your understanding that these are issues that can be resolved relatively soon?
Yes, we hope to put them back on the agenda in 2 weeks.
Okay.
So.
All right. All right, is there a motion to table learning experience?
So moved, Mr. Chairman.
Seconded.
All right. Motion made and seconded. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. So item 6 involves approval of additional costs for Kimmel Bogret for the master concept planning services for the township building. Mr. Gray.
Kimmel Bogret has provided a proposal for an as-built survey for the township building as part of the master concept plan. Unfortunately, the township does not have the necessary documents for Kimmel Bogret to use during their analysis. The proposal is for $8,000 to complete the necessary work. The board is asked to consider this proposal. In addition, Mr. John Trump from Kimmel Bogret is here tonight to answer any questions the board may have.
Okay.
Good evening, Board. My name is John Trump, and I'll actually also be serving as your project architect as we get this project started. And just a minor correction to what you said there, it's a not-to-exceed cost of $8,000.
Okay.
So if we go above and beyond that, that's your cap.
Okay. All right. And the issue essentially for the public and I guess for board members as well, we had 4 companies that put in proposals to look at renovations to this building. Kimmel Bogret was the company that we've chosen. They've done a lot of work for municipal buildings. I think Northampton, I believe you've done quite a bit of work in Northampton Township, I think. Mm-hmm. They came in at a very reasonable bid. All of the companies that put in proposals, however, were relying on the township to provide some technical diagrams of this building. Over the past week and a half or so, anybody who would have had contact with those has been looking feverishly, and they do not exist. Essentially, Kimmel, in order to do their work, has to have those technical specifications, and so you're going to have to basically create them. Is that correct? Okay. How long do you think that'll take in terms of process?
Probably be a couple of days out here for sure with 2 people kind of crawling around the building, measuring, photographing, things of that nature. Then we'll all take those documents that we've created and put them into a CAD drawing. So what we end up with is a fully, completely dimensioned plan of the building that, as we move through the process, will become the basis for our work.
Okay. All right. I'll open up to board comment or questions. Mr. Zupka?
It says no suitable plans. Does that mean they're plans and they're faded, or there isn't any, and it shouldn't say suitable, just they don't exist anymore?
I'm not sure what was sent over from your office.
It said this is necessary because no suitable existing building documents are available.
Yeah, it's my understanding that, like you said, that the township has kind of combed through their records to find the existing plans of the building, and nothing was available. So we're essentially going to create them.
Okay. I mean, there's nothing at all going back to when this was
We've gone through the
Reedman's, and this was the furniture store, and when the township first came in here and remodeled,
We've looked, we can't locate anything that would suit their needs.
wait a minute, you're saying to suit your needs. There is, either isn't anything or...
There isn't anything to
provide. It's just that $8,000 is a big chunk. I mean, I got a problem with that, but, all right, thank you.
Ms. Vislowski?
No.
Mr. Snipes?
The only question I have is, does anyone remember the name of the contractor that did the renovations on the building, I think in '96? And might they have copies? I mean, someone's got to remember. Township manager in '96?
This is before Mr. Gray was here, before, obviously Mr. Clark wasn't here, Mr. Sullivan wasn't here. Mrs. Ruth, the township secretary, has looked. She doesn't have any records. Mr. Arneo has no records.
You could contact Wayne Bergman. He was much involved.
It is highly unlikely that a contractor 15 years ago, in a job long since completed, would maintain any sort of specifications. Plus, if the renovations were done on not a building-wide renovation, but only on a certain portion, they would only have that portion which they worked on. I think the problem for the architect here is they need from front to back and from top to bottom.
Right.
And when Mr. Gray says there's no suitable, there's obviously some drawings and some sketches, but not what the architect needs to complete the project.
It's too bad. I mean, that would seem like critical information the township ought to hold on to. So I hope as we go through this process, this stuff is going to be archived really, really well. Because 15, 20 years down the road, someone's going to be going through this again. That's all I have.
Okay, Mr. Dents?
No, nothing.
No, and I think we talked about the fact that the issue came up that several years ago there was sort of a purging of documents to clear out some areas upstairs, and it's possible that some of those documents were lost at that point. Mr. Trump, in terms of going around and talking about measuring and taking photographs of different rooms, hallways, et cetera, is it as detailed as sort of documenting every outlet, light switch, light fixture, that kind of thing?
No, it's typically not that detailed. We're going to be looking mostly at the existing structure of the building, kind of getting your center line dimensions from columns to exterior walls, documenting what the walls are constructed of, foundations, things of that nature, where electric services enter the building, where plumbing services enter the building and sewers leave the building, things of that nature. So as we go through this process and work to create this building essentially all over again, those major components are well documented, where the outlet is here and your dais is probably not very important. They show up in pictures if we do. I mean, we take pictures of every room. If we need to reference something, it's usually in the picture. If not, we'll come back out and check it out. But it's going to be predominantly creating an existing floor plan and structural and mechanical, electrical, plumbing.
Okay.
Sir, I may have those plans. I was involved in the purchase of this building, and I wasn't on the board at the time, but I did provide plans for Unitech that saved us $250,000 of the sewer and water systems of Fairless Hills, which was built in 1951 and 52, and that chuckle from you, Mr. Clark. You're a carpetbagger. You have no history in this township. Don't scoff at me when I provide documents. Now, I will make an effort to find them, but not much of an effort now that this ignorant person has managed to do again I can't even describe his behavior. I will, though. I'm writing about it. Thank you.
Okay. Is there a public comment needed? See one hand. Is there a motion to open public comment?
So moved.
Motion made. Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, members of the board. Gallus Obert, Jr., by the way. I don't want you to get messed up with my son. Okay, he's running in Bristol Township for council. I've had conversations with many of the, what shall we say, people that run the township over the past 40 years. And every time you go for a document, they say, well, it's upstairs, but it's such a mess. Nobody can find anything. Maybe we ought to take some of this money and get somebody in to document and put these things, document them and put them in files and so forth so we can find them. It's pretty hard that you can't come to the township and find out who has what, where, when, and how. This has been going on for years. This is not just now. Okay, this building was owned by Reedman at one time, if I remember correctly. It was an auto place, am I right, right?
Originally, it was Reedman's Chrysler.
I'm sure that you can talk to
Chrysler
Reedman and find out who the architect was. If you can find out who the architect was, if he's still alive, or he didn't go to Florida or whatever, he might be able to help you in getting those drawings. I've been involved in getting plans put together and so forth, and it's not an easy job. Well, it might be, and it could be, and it should be, but it isn't. This is all the things that comes from trying to make a document of an existing building that's been modified. You don't know what's behind the wall. You don't know whether they're 2x4s, 2x3s, 6x6s, meaning a wide flange. You don't know because you don't have the time. Somebody's got the drawings. And how much was this project for?
With the original, for Kimmel Boggart, I think the original 23,000.
How much?
Their original to do the whole plan was 23 or 24,000.
$24,000? Mm-hmm. Well, and that's for this building, right?
And that's to do a plan for this building.
Have we ever had a fire and burglar alarm in this building?
Yeah.
We have? Who was there? Who were they? Nobody knows. Can't find it, can we? How about that?
What are you talking?
I mean, if somebody else had a plan here, they ought to have drawings.
The burglar alarm systems really don't go through plans. They don't make plans of the building. The company that has the burglar alarm systems don't have that, don't those kinds of records.
Mr. Obert, the reason I happen to have ancient plans is that when I sued the Nanhurst Corporation for Lake Caroline, the golf course, and Three Arches, and all of those facilities, I had those documents. I paid to reproduce them. And the engineer was Howard Levan, who planned the sewer and water systems. You remember that, I'm sure. And, you know, it was Mr. Levan's plans to replicate that would have cost us $250,000, except I saved documents. And I had them, and I gave them to the township, but I never got them back. And that's the way of things. Now, this building was recommended to the Board of Supervisors by 3 people who served on a committee after we had that Taj Mahal on Route 1 that cost us $6.25 million, and then it would have cost us $13 million had we kept it and paid the interest on it. That was folly, and we managed to get rid of that when I negotiated with Waste Management in my dining room and stuck them with the building.
Well,
why don't you run for this office if you want to talk in my place? But as long as I hold this position, do not interrupt me when I'm speaking.
Okay, Mr. Obert, you understand we're on item number 6 regarding the township plan, right? Because item 7 is about the burglar alarms and fire alarms.
Are we talking item 7?
No, 6.
6 is approval of Kimmel Burgert for Master Concrete Planning Service?
Yes. This is 6 we're talking about.
Okay, well, I'm going to include this one while I'm up here because it's going to be in part of it.
Okay.
I can't imagine there being a burglary in this building housed by the Falls Township officials and the police department. I just can't imagine it. Why would you buy a police dog to guard a kennel when you got all the yapping dogs in there? You got everybody here, they go in and out and so forth. So, but as far as I did get in, I thought item 5 was pushed off a little bit, right?
Item 5, correct, is tabled.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Can I ask a question on that? And then I want to be up again.
No, we're going to...
Mr.
We're talking
Obert,
about item 6 right now.
you should be allowed to continue because board members did speak, and I'm one of them.
And this is public comment on item number 6 of the agenda, which is the Kimmel-Boggart master plan. Now, Mr. Obert, you can speak at the public comment. You can speak. You can ask a question about learning experience. But right now, we're focused on the Kimmel-Boggart, the issue of whether or not, obviously, the township doesn't have plans. Hopefully, Mrs. Kozlowski has them. That would be great. Save us a lot of money. These guys can move right ahead. But that's, I mean, obviously, you're welcome to come back up during public comment if you want to ask us about item 5. But item 5 is tabled, and we're going to come back to that hopefully in 2 weeks with that issue. Okay?
Okay. I just can't imagine us trying to find drawings without looking in their own garage first, or meaning the upstairs. Okay?
We have.
I've charged people a good price for the drawings I've done because very difficult. I used to do work with, for, and Mr. Bruce Campbell, the gentleman, scholar, so forth, willing to talk and so forth. And if he's done work, I don't know where his drawings are now, but
I don't know either.
Okay, somewhere there's drawings in this building.
No, I don't think they're here, Mr. Obert. I believe that Bruce Campbell kept his drawings in the basement of the building, which is now some other business since he passed away several years ago.
Yes.
But I knew that they were there at one time because I saw them. I inspected that building.
I was there at his building at 9 o'clock, and I think he passed away at 11 as he walked out the door. And I won't ever forget that one. That was a scary one, that's for sure.
He was found in the doorway, I'm told.
Pardon me?
He was found in the doorway. He was going out to lunch.
He was going out in his car.
Yeah.
The old Chevy.
Thank you.
Thank
you,
you.
Mr. Obert. Any other public comment on the Kimmel-Boggart issue? Seeing no hands. we have
Sir,
motion to close
I
public
would like
comment.
to address this gentleman before you pass this.
Item to close, well, we're closing public comment right now. Motion to close public comment.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Okay, opposed? All right, so final
will-
comments or questions for Mr. Trump?
Yes.
I will make an effort to find those documents. I think they might be at a different house that I own, not the one I'm occupying, and I will look. And if I can, how can I reach you? Do you have a card that you
I'll
can
leave
give
a-
me?
I'll leave a card.
All right.
Absolutely.
Because there's no reason to punish the taxpayers because they're not here.
Yeah, any additional information is always helpful.
We're talking bearing walls and everything, aren't we?
Yes.
Okay. You're going to do the complete skeletal outline of this building, if that's my understanding?
That's correct.
Okay, I will look and see if I have them.
Yeah, it would also include all the existing partitions and stuff.
Thank
as
you.
well.
Leave your card with me now, please.
Okay. All right, so we're looking for an amount not to exceed $8,000 for Kimmel Bogret to conduct the necessary work so they can do their as-built survey of the township building.
Mr. Chairman,
Is there a motion to that effect? Yes.
why don't we hold off till the next meeting and see if Judge Oslowski does have anything that can be used before we vote on this? I for one, don't want to vote on it for $8,000 with the possibility of them showing up in maybe, a couple days or a week.
Okay. Is that something that the board would be interested in?
Sure.
Yeah, the only other question I had was to make the vote conditional if nothing else is found. Then to
That's what I was going
have
to
it
suggest.
be already
Perhaps that way we
approved so
wouldn't
we
have
can
to do
move
this
forward.
again and have to wait a couple of weeks. I mean, if,
I will know within the week. I have a plane ticket that I'm going to use.
Okay.
So I'm prepared to vote on this conditioned upon if or not the plans are located. And then we'd have to
That'd be
meet
great.
again and revise.
All right, so our next meeting will be on the 15th. Okay, so I guess we can say that if plans are not furnished to Mr. Trump by the 15th, if someone was to make a motion, that if plans are not furnished to him before the 15th, then the board will agree to a sum not to exceed $8,000 for them to do the work. And if Mrs. Oslowski gets back to you tomorrow and says, that she doesn't have them, then, then
It won't
you
be
can-
that
you can-
fast,
you can
but I
start-
will look.
Well, just as an example, you can start right away. You don't have to wait till the 15th to find out.
Okay,
Is
that'd be
that
That's
acceptable? Okay, is anyone?
I'll make the
someone-
motion.
Okay,
I'll second it.
all right, motion made and seconded. Mrs. Bullen?
Mr. Zupka?
Yes.
Mrs. Wislowski?
Yes.
Mr. Harvey?
Yes.
Mr. Dents?
Yes.
Mr. Snipes?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
all right, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Trump. All right, item 7 is consider fire and burglar alarm monitoring quotes. Mr. Gray.
Yes. Rich DiPolito, Fire Marshal, has received 3 quotes for fire and burglar alarm monitoring for the Township building. The 3 quotes are as follows. BAI, $790, ADT, $1,120, plus a one-time charge of $1,080, and Simplex Grinnell, $1,240. Mr. DiPolito is recommending BAI security systems for a 1-year period for fire and burglar alarm monitoring. The board is asked to consider BAI.
And what is that amount that Mr. DiPolito recommends?
$790 for 1 year.
Okay, Mr. Gray, just refresh our memories as to, we did have a company that was providing this service for us. We're moving on to another one. What were the reasons for that change?
We've had Fidelity for probably 8 to 10 years. We've had some problems with some monitoring within the building, and some alarms have been going off that were false alarms, basically, and some other minor issues. We felt it was probably necessary for a change, and Mr. DiPolito did go out and get 3 quotes and feel it's best to move to another company.
Okay, is he familiar with BAI?
He has worked with them. He's not familiar with them personally. He has worked with them in other areas that they do work for in other buildings, so he is familiar with their work, yes.
Okay.
Have we ever had anyone break into this building and steal anything?
Not that I'm aware of, no.
Looks like we have to watch politicians instead of outsiders.
Comments or questions from board members? Mr. Zupka?
No, I have none.
Mrs. Vislowski?
None.
Mr. Snipes?
No, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Dents?
None.
And I have none. Any public comment needed? See no hands. All right, then, is there a motion to, I guess you would say, contract with a BAI for a 1-year amount of $790 to provide fire and burglar alarm monitoring?
Mr. Harvey, it should also include that we will pay them $85 per hour for maintenance as needed. So that should also be included in the motion.
Okay, all right, apologize. All right, so we're looking at $709 per year, $85 per hour maintenance to BAI for fire alarm and burglar alarm monitoring service and certification.
What does maintenance consist of, please?
Possibly if there's any adjustments to the pad itself that's located on the wall, adjustments that would need to be required for repairs or any type of breakdown.
Wouldn't we have a guarantee with it?
Well, the system we've had is probably about 10 years old, so it is an existing system. So if they have to come out here and service it,
The new system should carry with it a warranty. If we're going to spend that much money, then we should have a guarantee, not
this is just monitoring the system. So there's an existing system in place, so they would just monitor the activity going on.
I think you're missing my point, Mr. Gray, because when I buy a washing machine, it carries with it a warranty. And it's warranted for so many months or years, depending upon the negotiated deal. And I would not sign a blanket thing. I would want to be able to pick my serviceman, and I think we're jumping into this too hastily, and considering that we've never had anybody break into the building. Mr. Obert made a good point. You don't get, when there are dogs in the kennel, you don't have to hire someone to watch the kennel.
But you obviously would want to make sure they don't burn in a fire. And that's the issue here. This is a fire alarm system and a burglar alarm system, and we are paying, Mrs. Vislowski, just for a second, we are not buying a new system and installing a new system. What we are doing is contracting with a company that monitors the system. If there is some kind of an alarm, they are alerted. They then contact us. It's very
I'm
much
familiar
like,
with how they work.
Well, and that's what we're talking about. That's why there isn't necessarily a warranty, because we're not purchasing.
I think we're getting excuse me.
Well, Ms. Vislowski, you were talking about people interrupting, and here I am trying to explain this to an issue you obviously don't understand.
Excuse me, you interrupt me all the time, and I don't want to get in a spitting contest with you tonight, because you're going to lose if that happens.
Yes, but what we're dealing with here, you're raising an issue as if we're buying a brand new system, and it's not what we're doing.
We're getting the cart ahead of the horse.
No.
So don't talk down to me, because we are now going to have a fella charge us $8,000 to examine this building. And I think that it would be much wiser for us to have that happen and have him do the report, and he could be instructed to talk about a fire alarm and whatever kind of protection you need for the thieves and liars.
Okay. All right. Mr. Snipes, any comments or questions from you?
No. Obviously, we need a fire alarm system and a burglar system, and as you explained, this is for the monitoring of the system, not the system itself, so we should move ahead.
Mr. Dents?
No questions or comments.
Okay. Comments or questions from the public? See no hands. All right, then. Is there a motion then to go ahead and...
I have one more question.
Yes.
To Mr. Gray, have we been having maintenance problems or issues with anything in the building when it comes to the alarm system?
We have had false alarms on the system in the past. So there are issues that were raised by the fire marshal that maybe we should look into a different company.
Okay, so all in all, we would take this company on, and then if we're still having false alarms, they would come in and charge us by the hour, basically, to go through the existing system and or sensors to see if it's in the building or it's something.
If there are issues that would require maintenance, they would look at it, yes.
Well,
it's just for a 1-year period as well. so we can always look at this again at the end of the one-year term.
Okay.
We have not had an orderly system in this township for all of the years I've been outvoted on this board for common sense items. And there was a very practical reason why I'm concerned, and that's because I see the money that I brought in dissipated for foolish and unwise purchases. You seem to think that we have a bottomless pit, but we don't. I see the money going. Wayne Bergman brought to my attention when I took my oath of office for this term. I served in the 70s on this board. But when I was sworn in January of '06, he told me things that cost him his job because the board was inattentive to common sense. And one of those things had to do with the short funding of our police pension funds. There are so many things that the public does not know about the haphazard spending here. Now, I am raising an issue, unfortunately, that never appears in the official minutes, but thank God there exists official tapes of these meetings. And I can promise you there will be a revelation to the public. And I'll talk about that later in the meeting. And it doesn't matter who's in attendance here. The public watches these meetings, and they know when it goes unreported in the paper, the public sees it here, and they tell their neighbors. And there is concern. And after the last meeting, I got calls from police officers who remembered Mr. Bergman's admonition, and they were not allowed to see records. And I've been denied records because you have been hired to say whether or not I can legally have them. And I can legally have them. And if you don't know the answer to that, I think a first-year student in law school would be able to answer that and not take money from this township for doing something that requires no legal research. Now, I'm telling you right now, you are on a slippery slope, and you are going to crash at the bottom.
Okay, again, this issue is for a new fire and burglar alarm system monitoring. It's not an actual new system. This is something recommended by our fire marshal, and the company is one that he recommends to us. They came in as the low quote for this service, again, monitoring the system. Mr. Zupka raised the issue, yes, about maintenance. The previous Fidelity, correct?
Fidelity.
Was the previous company. Did they also have to come out and do maintenance?
I think they did come out periodically.
And did they charge us an hourly rate for doing that?
I believe there was.
Okay. All right. So
But
this is not an unusual.
Part of my point is that if they're going to charge us $85 for maintenance, but if we're having an existing problem, with, say, false alarms. Well, they could come out and spend 100 hours here trying to trace wiring down and such, where
Exactly.
if we're going to have the building mapped out, then maybe they, at that time, they're going to find something that's an issue at the time. I don't want to see going into this and then within 3 or 4 months spending, $4,000 or $5,000 to repair an existing problem. And it might have to be anyway, even with the other company, but it just isn't being fixed at this time, and I think we have to look into what has to be, what we're looking at with remodeling and renovating. Maybe there's just wiring issues up in the ceilings or places that are sending it off, where we get through the renovating here, which will take some time. Maybe it'll just all be fixed. I understand we need some type of alarm system, but then we go back to the same thing. We have the police department right there. We really haven't had any issues.
Yes, Mr.
I think regardless of, there are two different issues. We have to have someone monitoring the system for fire.
Right.
Maybe we might not be getting burglarized, but if there's a fire, we have to have somebody monitoring it. If there's repairs that need to be done, that's a different issue. If we're going to hire somebody to look into problems with false alarms. But this issue is monitoring, and that's it. I understand what you're saying. If they're false alarms are the reason we're switching systems
Now,
or monitoring companies,
Mr.
we could
DePoli-
look for an electrical contractor or someone
Mr.
to...
DePolito's not here, but did
Right.
he bring up the fact to these companies that, you know, we are having issues, and this is one of the reasons we're changing, and, you know, again, with him not being able to answer, but if he brought it up that we're having issues, maybe it was already discussed that they will spend a certain amount of time here looking at it first before they just come in. But again, I'd rather have an answer, frankly, if they're going to do anything with, we'll say, at the price that's there. I mean, ADT is, you know, charging a $1,080 one-time charge. That might be for them to come in and evaluate what's actually in the building, where that's what we might end up spending with this other company. I understand they're a local company, but just going back to it, I'd rather get an answer if they're going to do anything with coming in the very beginning and looking over what's here already, because maybe they're going to come in and say, you know, they can't work with what's in this building, and that's why we're getting the false alarms.
Mr. Gray, do you know how much we pay a year for Fidelity?
Yeah, it's, I want to say between $1,000 and $1,200.
And then they're our company now?
Yes, they are. Well, they are done at the end of yesterday, October 31st.
Okay.
Mr. Gray, did I understand you to verify that we have $32 million in our long-term savings? And this is definitely connected with what we're discussing now.
Yeah, we have approximately $32 million, yeah.
Yes. Now, let me tell you this. We had $32 million when I brought in that first contract with Waste Management. $32 million of that 95 agreement went to pay off our $32 million debt. And then we made the motion to put $32 million in long-term savings. And we, 15 years later, have $32 million in our long-term savings. And we had a bull market in these last 15 years. Money rolled into this township, not just from Waste Management, but in interest and investments. Why do we only have $32 million now? And I know why.
$32 million was accumulated yearly since 2000.
Well, let me tell you this. That is not the fact, because we have been taking the interest from our $32 million, from that Waste Management money invested, and we have been using it to balance the budget for all this wasteful spending that's going on, because this board is not using common sense in the expenditures of our money. Now, I can back it up, but it falls on deaf ears. The only way we can handle this is legally. That's why Mr. Clark was hired to keep me away from the records. That's not going to happen. I'm entitled. Only God has more power in this township than any one of these 5 supervisors. It's not only our right, it's our responsibility to know what's going on. And thank God I had the heart attack, because I had time to delve into what you're doing while I was in the hospital and kept in bed recuperating. Now, I'm asking the questions that have not been asked. And I'm telling you, I am concerned. And you're saying that our police pension fund isn't underfunded? That's one of the coffin nails when Wayne Bergman got fired, because he was too close to me, a new board member, and he was telling the public exactly what was going on. He expected me to tell, and I did. And that made him an unsatisfactory manager. He doesn't just yes everything like you do, Mr. Gray.
Okay, again, the issue we're looking at is fire and burglar alarm systems for the township building, monitoring systems for the township building. Thank you, Mr. Dents. And obviously, I certainly agree with Mr. Zipka's point. It'd be great if we could find out quickly if there is some kind of serious issue that is causing repeated problems. However, it doesn't change the fact that we have to have somebody who monitors this system.
And we're saving money.
And we're saving money because this is actually cheaper than the firm that we're using currently, or did use currently. So, with all the discussion we've had, some of which has actually been on the issue, I think we should probably look at this now. We have, again, a recommendation from our fire marshal, BAI, a firm that we can bring on board at $790 per year for monitoring, as well as $85 per hour maintenance when needed. And I think we should have a motion to that effect. Did we have a motion already? I think no? Okay, so somebody move that to that effect?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, so moved.
All right, so we're
I'll second the motion.
Motion made and seconded. Mrs. Pullen?
Mr. Zupka?
At this time, I'm going to vote no.
Mrs. Slaski?
Absolutely no.
Mr. Harvey?
Yes.
Mr. Dents?
Yes.
Mr. Snipes?
Yes, we need fire protection, obviously.
Okay, thank you. All right, item number 8, consider approval to re-advertise the bid for pre-owned police vehicles. Mr. Gray?
A bid was held for 2 pre-owned automobiles for the police department on, bid opening was held on Friday, October 21st, 2011. No bids were received at that time. The board is asked to consider authorizing re-advertisement of this bid for the 2 pre-owned vehicles for the police department.
Okay, again, police department looking for some used vehicles, pre-owned vehicles for use by, especially by our detectives. And we're looking for specific size cars and that kind of thing, capabilities, just in terms of what we need them for. So no bids were received, so we have to re-advertise. Is there a motion to re-advertise for the pre-owned police vehicles?
So moved, Mr. Chairman.
Second.
Moved and made and seconded. Any public comment needed? It's a pretty simple item. Don't imagine there's any board comment. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. All right. Item number 9 on our agenda is consider finalizing the award for the bid for the Senior Citizen Center. Mr. Gray?
Yes, Township received a letter dated October 17th from Mr. Jim Sullivan at T&M Associates. T&M has completed the review of the qualifications of Craft Source. This is for the Senior Center Edition. TMN has determined that Craft Source has a sufficient record of reliability and experience to justify the award of a public contract in accordance with the requirements of the Falls Township Code. Therefore, T&M does recommend the Township finalize the project award and provide the contract to Craft Source.
Okay. All right, comments or questions from board members? Mr. Zupka?
No, I have none.
Mrs. Wisłowski?
I don't have any questions. I know the answers to this. I happen to have included the senior center in a lawsuit when I sued Danhurst and one of those other things. And I was involved in the development of the senior center, the new senior center. I want nothing to do with the way you handle things. You don't use common sense now. And it's sad because I'm the only person that has an honorary membership to the senior center, and that was given to me as a gift because I had done so much to help bring it in. And it saddens me to see the haphazard way this board has developed so many of the things in this beautiful community.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Snipes?
No, Mr. Chairman, I think we need to move forward. Older residents of the township deserve improved facilities, so I'm ready to move forward.
Mr. Dents?
No questions or comments.
Okay. Any public comment needed? See no hands. And obviously, I know the Senior Citizen Center, their board is excited about this. They had a lot to do with the plans that were drawn up, meeting with Mr. Sullivan and his people over many, many, many months so they could have an input and help design this facility. So with that, I'll entertain a motion to finalize the award for the bid for the Senior Citizen Center for Craft Source.
I have another comment, Mr. Harvey, before we have the motion.
Is it on the agenda item, Mrs. Wisłowski?
Yes, and the senior center is being haphazardly developed, and these individuals who are so happy about it are just like Mr. DiPolito. He didn't have alternatives. He was asked about a fire system? And he answered honestly, and you put people in the position of having to choose something that is not the best thing. If they had choices and were told, if you do this, it will cost this much, and the common sense is what's absent in all of your decisions. This board has spent money recklessly, and we're going to run out of it, and it's happening sooner. You're the Obama to this township. You are the Obama people, and he's destroyed this country, and you're destroying Falls Township. And it's not long till it will happen.
Thank you. All right, is there a motion then, like I said, to consider finalizing the award? Oh, we had a motion in a second, correct?
No, but I'll make the motion.
And I'll second.
Second motion, all right, to award to Craft Source. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
No.
All right, item number 10 is consider authorizing Township Manager to finalize the award for the Babe Ruth Baseball Field at Quaker Penn Park. Mr. Gray?
T&M is completing its review of the responsible contractors ordinance requirements for James R. Kenny for the construction of a Babe Ruth field at Quaker Penn Park. Their review should be completed shortly. In an effort to continue the process, the board is asked to consider authorizing the township manager to finalize the award for the bid for the Babe Ruth field located at Quaker Penn Park.
Okay, comments or questions from board members? Mr. Zupko?
No, I have none.
Mrs. Kozlowski?
I'm not even going to look at the costs because it's for the children. That's where we should be spending our money.
Okay. Mr. Snipes?
No questions, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Dents?
No.
Okay, and I have none. Any public comment needed? Again, this is basically a Babe Ruth-sized baseball field that'll be used. I guess the priority will be for people within Falls Township, the 3 leagues that we have existing. It'll also be open for public use when times when those leagues aren't using it. And it'll be Quaker Penn Park, really right adjacent to where the boat ramp just went in. All right, so is there a motion then to authorize Township Manager to finalize the award for the Babe Ruth Baseball Field to James R. Kinney?
So moved, Mr. Chairman.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. All right, next item on the agenda is public comment. We're going to take a short recess. Okay, we'll call our meeting back to order. We are at item 11 on our agenda, which is the public comment. First name on our list this evening is Roland Kenny.
Roland Kenny, Falls Township. Start off with, I don't know if I told you before, I had a article in the paper on 8/21/11 seeing if John Galloway would introduce legislation up in Harrisburg to allow homeowners in condominiums and homeowners associations, when they want to, you always hear the saying, if you don't like the board, what they're doing, sue them. Well, in those 2 things, you have to go get yourself a lawyer. Then when the condo man or woman gets his or her lawyer, you have to pay for that one too. So I want to thank John Galloway, because he did introduce it. It's up there, and I hope if he's have any friends in the same deal as John, you let them know to try to back them so they can pass that. Next, Penn Manor. There's on the 6th of November, we're going to have a retired FBI agent there, Robert Whitman. He's going to, he wrote a book, Priceless. He's the FBI agent. You probably know, I don't remember it. Years ago, Penn Manor got robbed of very expensive articles there. He's the one that found them. He's the one who brought them back. And he did around $250 million worth of stuff he got back. So he's going to be talking at 1 p.m. on November 6th and sign this book or whatever. So if you get a chance, stop around. And then on December 1st and 2nd, it's Holly Night. If anybody gets a chance, come out. That's when we light the candles in the milk cartons. Everything's lit up by candles. There's no electricity throughout the whole place. And it's really a beautiful event. And if you have children, I think you'll enjoy it. And even you'll enjoy it. So, and next, just want to, elections coming up. And I still feel that young man that tried for this board a few times, and a couple times I think he got the dirty end of the stick. Mr. Dell, Andy Dell, I think he would do good on this board. He knows the township. I seen him do a lot of free stuff down free orchards, and I think he deserves the right. And I think you would have somebody up there that knows our township, that wouldn't be afraid to say what he means, and you got to remember, before he was a Republican, he was a Democrat all that time. And so I'll let you go at that. Good night. God bless you.
Mr. Kenny, before you leave, there is a man who prunes holly trees for William Penn Manor. And he used to do the tree at the house that I own in Lower Makefield. I need to find him because he said that that was the most beautiful holly tree in that it had so many berries on it.
Would that be Charlie?
I think he's an old gentleman.
With a beard?
Yes.
That's Charlie.
Would you speak to him and tell him that I would like him to contact me? And I will give you a number that you can give to him, okay?
All right.
And
now he retired around, I guess, 6 months ago, but every event he still comes back.
he will do that tree. He loved that tree.
Yes.
And it needs drastic pruning because someone, when I was in another state visiting my grandson, cut that tree about 10 feet high. And that was a disaster. But it can be brought back, I think, if Charlie gets to it and prunes it, okay?
I'll tell you, if anybody can do it, Charlie can do it.
Okay, here's the number, please.
He knows more about William Penn than William Penn knows about himself.
All right, thank you.
Thank you, gentlemen.
Sure. Next name on the list, Bill Dayton.
203, 20334. I'm going to have to call you. Write your number so I can call you and tell you.
Bill Dayton Falls.
Here we are.
Ladies, gentlemen, Your Honor, Mr. Harvey.
Yeah.
As I was saying
Cell phone.
about the bridge behind the school,
8.
I've changed my mind based on a conversation with Mr. Scott Bittner, who works for PennDOT, who takes care of all the little bridges and all the main bridges in this area. And he was surprised to learn that there was a bridge there, and if it is there, he says it belongs to Falls Township. And he didn't shoot from the hip like you did, but he went through a lot of paperwork. And the liabilities are going to rest on Falls, and there's always kids sitting on that bridge. But let me make it quick because you're going to start talking, give me history of bridge making, and I don't have time for that. There's always kids sitting on that bridge, and I never seen anybody speeding through there, and I've been across that bridge thousands of times. And I've seen vehicles up to 25,000 pounds cross that bridge. There's no weight limit, there's no lights, no reflectors, guardrails, non-existent. If somebody gets off that bridge, they can capitalize probably up to $32 million. So I'm saying, lock it down. I'm changing my story. I want to see it closed. Only because of liability. I think you think that the church is going to pay, but their funds are low. They don't have that kind of cash. So Mr. Scott Bittner, I have his phone number and his extension if you would like to speak to him. He was involved with it. And I never mentioned the bridge on New Falls Road. You started giving me a history of how they built it and the time and all.
No, I never
mentioned
gave you a
it.
history, Mr. Dayton.
What's
And
that?
actually,
Yeah, you did. You told me how they built it.
Excuse me. No, I
There
didn't.
you go again. Stop.
No.
Just do your collating and you're making your noises and everything else. Let me talk. Because you started last time. You took all my time and you shut me down.
Mr. Dayton, try and be accurate. Go ahead, keep going.
You told me about putting the bridge and the top's going to go on, and I never mentioned that bridge at all. My concern was the bridge in the back.
You wanted to go past, you wanted us to
You talk about bobbing and weaving through Thornridge. I don't care if you bob and weave through Thornridge.
You wanted us to force St. Joseph the Worker to keep the bridge open.
That's correct. I changed
and I told you that the bridge was, while the bridge was ours, the gate belonged to St. Joseph the Worker, and if they wanted to keep the gate closed, they could.
All right. Well, we shouldn't be driving on that bridge. We'll talk to Mr. Scott Bittner. The liability is going to fall on us. There's no lights. There's kids always sitting on that bridge. I crossed that bridge thousands of times, and I've never seen anybody speed across there.
Okay.
But I'm saying shut it down. I've seen vehicles 25,000 pounds, and I thought the guy was going to have a heart attack. He said, no, it's not inspected. It needs to be, and we have a sign there that says no outlet. So let's make it no outlet. I'm saying shut it down. Now that the other thing's open, don't open it anymore. That's what I'm saying.
Okay. And I'll be happy to ask Mr. Sullivan if we could, if the bridge is ours, that's back there, maybe take a look at it and see if it's up to specs. If not, then obviously we have to take a look at it.
Well, we can do it for free. PennDOT will probably give us a freebie. It's going to cost 10 grand. What I'm saying is you can go over there and see, can this handle 25,000 pounds? I can tell you no.
If it's our bridge, PennDOT's going to tell us that we have to inspect it.
Well, what I'm saying is make it quick. You go over there and look at it. The railings and everything, the kids are always sitting on the side.
Yeah, I know, it's a hang-up.
Somebody gets wiped out. The church is going to... And I'd like to say one thing about Your Honor. She picked on that. She told the heckler back there to knock it off. Well, they were gagging and choking on me and wheezing on me and spitting on me for over an hour. I thank you, Your Honor, for picking them out anyway.
Yeah.
The hecklers
They come
back
to
there.
all the meetings, and they manage to disrupt the meetings, but they're Mr. Harvey's friends.
They look like vicious people.
Well, they need some history lessons because they got to find out why we can do what we do here. They got to travel maybe to other countries and see what goes on over there.
They come, but they haven't learned yet.
Well, this is one of the reasons they need a history lesson. If anybody can help them in that situation. That's it. The bridge. That's my point. But as far as you bobbing and weaving, I really don't care. You know what I mean? That's not what I was talking about. And I've been over that bridge thousands of times. I'm telling you, we shouldn't be driving on that bridge.
Okay. All right. We'll have
What
somebody
else?
take a look at it.
I think that's it. Yeah, that's it. The heckler, the bridge. That's it. Thank you, gentlemen.
Okay. Thank you. Gallus Obert.
Good evening again, ladies and gentlemen. Gallus Obert. The last meeting you had a whole mess of stuff on the agenda, so I thought, well, I'll time it so that I don't have to listen to all the other stuff. I came to him, the meeting was almost all over. And I thought, whoops, not going to happen this time, so tonight I got here early. I have 3 items. One, how's the Boat Ramp Road doing? Do we own the road, or don't we own the road?
We've told you this several
I can't
times
hear
over
you.
we do not own the road.
We do not own the road.
Do not own the road.
Okay, so how's somebody supposed to get to the boat ramp, but beside the boat?
We have an easement over the road. We are permitted to use it. Township residents and others are permitted to use it. We have an easement. And we do not have ownership of the road.
You do not own the road. Who's going to fix it?
Waste Management is down there fixing it now. They are
Really?
putting in potholes, they are filling in potholes, and they are coming up with a plan to do a full fix of the road before the spring. But
Okay.
temporarily, they were out there the other day filling in potholes and doing other things.
Well, that's good, finally. How's the shovel-ready project at Tyburn Road and New Falls Road light?
They broke ground on that today, actually. I was out there, drove by there this morning, and there was no work done. Drove by in the afternoon, and they had chunks of concrete on the islands ripped up. There's utility paint on the road, so they are They're out there starting to work on that project now.
They're only putting in new lights and switches, right?
Brand new poles, the whole, everything.
Oh, they're going to put new poles up
yeah,
too?
Yeah.
That's a good waste of money. Okay. My final issue, ladies and gentlemen, as a lot of you know, that I've decided to get involved in this next election. And I'm here tonight to help the voters understand something that apparently a lot of them don't know, okay? The voters are not knowledgeable about what region they live in for Pennsbury school system. Oh, I think I live in one. Well, you must live up in Yardley. Oh, no, I live down in so-and-so. They don't know. It's a shame. So, Region 11 consists of 11 voting districts. Fairless Hills, Levittown, and Tullytown. And I'm here to make sure that at least some people will understand that if they voted Village Park, Village of Pembroke, Penn Valley School, Elementary School, Manor Elementary School, there's 3 there and 3 at Penn Valley. Then Falsington Elementary School, Pinewood Pool, that's a new location for this year, and Tullytown Borough. Any of you that are listening to this meeting tonight are voting in Region 2. Region 2 for the last 3.5 years has only had 2 representatives. There's 6 candidates. I happen to be one of them. I don't have any money, but I think I have enough friends to help me pull this one off. I received no campaign funds, nor have I asked for any. The question is, some candidates have received campaign dollars from United Workers, auto workers in Fort Washington, electrical workers, Washington, D.C., attorney in Philadelphia, and a consultant in Ambler. My question to you is, none of these people have anything to do with this district. Might have a worker or 2 of them, but the question is, do you want school directors who are connected, concerned for the students and taxpayers, or do you want school directors who are financed by union funds? That's your choice, ladies and gentlemen. 13A is my lever. I was born at 13 Adele Avenue. I think that's a lucky number. Thank you very much for the time.
Yep.
I hope you're not not going to cut this out.
I don't cut
The
meetings
school
out.
board has already edited one of my things, and I haven't forgotten that.
Mm-hmm.
They blocked out my whole 3.5, 4 minutes.
Well, Madeline Jones.
Thank you. It's a long walk from back there. It'll take you 5 minutes to get up here as you age. Good evening, Madeline Jones, Falls Township. First off, I want to thank Bill Dayton as a reminder. He brought up a good point regarding our history. It is election time, and he's right. We have a privilege and a responsibility in this country, not only to vote, but to know and vote. Sometimes we forget to know and vote. And sometimes we grow up and our families and our families always vote one party, and therefore we do it forever. Please know the individual, the character of the individual, then vote. Don't just vote for the sake of voting. So thank you, sir, for reminding us. And we should know our Constitution. Heavens, we do not want to lose it. What brought me here tonight, question, I don't know if this is too loud, sometimes you can't hear it on my TV. Question, when is the communication between the township and, say, the Pennsylvania Department of Transportation regarding state roads within our township? Is there any type of communication at all?
There is a public relations person that we contact if there's issues that come up, or he contacts us if there's issues that come up. So yeah, there is someone that we have a contact with.
So if there's a need on some of the state roads and the township is aware of it, does the township kind of forward this information to this PR, public relation person, and say, hey, if there's, I'm going to lose my voice, if there's funding or stimulus money come in,
Right.
Is there communication about that, or is this the State Department of Transportation just go ahead and do what they want to do?
Well, it's a little bit of both. I mean, they might know about the issue already, but if there's something that, if there's some specific concern that we find out about, we make the call and say, hey, look, there's a problem on this road. Now, it might be something they already know about. It might be something, like you said, they aren't ready to deal with. If it's something simple like, a pothole or something, that's one thing. But
Well, the potholes are one thing. Last weekend or so, when I was coming down Oxford Valley to Business One, there at the dividing, it's Crumbly's, it's a site, it's really a eyesore, and the rocks were just crushing into the lane to make the left turn. And I know we're probably waiting for something to be done at that intersection, but it's dangerous, and we invite, all these visitors, to our township and neighboring townships, and it's not a good presentation on our part. What really is a concern, and I probably have mentioned this to some over the course of time, since Tyburn Road has been closed, okay, I, for one, have been going into Morrisville several times weekly at different times of day, crossing, coming on 13 North, getting off at the ramp to go into Superhighway, to bypass. It's treacherous. It's suicidal. I went in this morning, and you get to the point where you got to get over to get on into Morrisville there, and it's just like you run off road and you're already there at the dead end where the dirt is, where the cross is, and I'm sure there's been many accidents, if not, and there have been times when I've seen drivers back up because they haven't been able to make that left, and the driver behind me, he slowed down. And if the cars behind him were on his bumper, there would have been a collision. So it's something that someone's got to visibly get out there. And I've offered more than once to several that I'll be glad to go with them, buy them coffee. Let's get on, down here, another exit at Oxford Valley, drive it, because the lanes, the way they merge and the way the signs are, it's ridiculous. It's a waste of money. And the money that could have been perhaps put there to help that intersection, bear with me on this, they put signs up, maybe there's some reason for this, between, I guess, in Falls Township all the way down to the Pennsylvania Turnpike and beyond, okay, and you're traveling, and sometimes they work, sometimes they don't work, and no matter what time of day or night I come and go, it always says 4 miles, 4 minutes. Average travel time to such and such an exit. Well, if the speed limit is 55 miles an hour, how can you do 55, do the math, 4 miles in 4 minutes? And rain or shine, the same thing. And sometimes they don't even work. Now, if there's another purpose behind what's already up there, I don't even want to, but to me and to a lot of others, it was a waste of money. Thanks for listening, as always.
Okay, thank you. See, Mrs. Kozlowski is next. Yeah, I know Mrs. Kozlowski wanted to speak, but I know there's a couple other people that were interested in speaking as well. Mrs. Kozlowski is not here at the moment, so we'll come back to her. Mr. Dell, you're interested in speaking? And I know the gentleman back there as well, so, and anybody else who might be interested.
I know I brought this up last meeting, or maybe the meeting before. When you're driving on Tyburn Road and the trees that overhang Tyburn Road, a lot of them, I guess due to the rainy season, hanging maybe in about a 45-degree angle. A lot of them look like they're about to drop. Whose responsibility is that to cut these trees off the road? Is it the property owner who owns that property, or is it PennDOT? Who's responsible? Because a lot of them look like they're dangerously close to dropping, and someone's going to get killed out there. I mean, I don't know if you've taken a ride down that road, but it's pretty rough.
Well, let's find out either from Mr. Sullivan or Mr. Clark, whoever wants to take that issue. Mr. Clark is being pointed to by Mr. Sullivan.
The answer is depends. If the trees are located in the right-of-way and it's a PennDOT road, then it's PennDOT's responsibility to trim the road, trim the trees. If they're back far enough where they're not in the right-of-way and they're on private property, then it would be the property owners.
How deep is the right-of-way, or don't we even know what the depth of the right-of-way
I'm
is?
not sure how far the right-of-way is.
Yeah, it varies
at
by
that point,
road.
How far it extends.
These
back
are
to that.
substantial trees, and they look like they're leaning about 60 feet. So, I mean, they probably are on the people's property, but I'm sure they're not, I don't even know if the people are aware of it, because there's no houses on these properties. It's backs up to the courthouse, I guess, and runs all the way towards the Sills Insurance. I guess goes through, there's that little guy's putting up a house there now.
Right.
Used to be an airport. I can't remember what it's called, but there's that little section there. But that stretch of woods and on the opposite side of the road, same thing. The trees, they're all sort of teetering in, and a lot of them are dead and looking unhealthy.
Well, I know who owns the property.
Okay.
We do.
Oh, okay.
Open space. It was purchased many years ago by the township as open space.
Okay.
Now, it doesn't answer the question as to whether or not they're in the right-of-way. That's something we'd have to take a look at. So we can take a look at that if they're ours, and obviously we'll get somebody out to take a look at them. If they're PennDOT's, we can make sure PennDOT takes a look at them.
Okay. The other question I had is the boat
May
ramp.
I interrupt
Yeah,
for
go
a
ahead.
moment? That was originally purchased by the county, and I'm not aware that Falls Township acquired it. If you're talking about the place that begins where the schoolmaster's house is, and then there's a private home across the road, and then we go all the way down to East Trenton Avenue, is that what you're talking about? Well, that my knowledge was that it was purchased by the county, and we could own it now, but I never saw that happen.
Okay. The one's Hillside, across the street's Hillside, and across the other side is
Yeah.
whatever, yeah.
Right, yeah, something like that, yeah.
But the boat ramp, a lot of people have asked me why it's closed, because other boat ramps are still open. Why do we close it in October?
The issue was concerned about the docks during with the winter weather coming in. Mr. Sullivan, you want to touch basically on some of the reasons why we're doing that?
Well, we have to pull the docks out at a reasonable time of year. Probably would have pulled them out if we'd known about the snowstorm we just had. But basically, they're supposed to be, available from April 15th to October 15th. If the weather stays nice, we leave them in. But after that, we got to take them out because ice coming down the river will destroy them.
Okay.
In the wintertime.
All right.
Trees, not so much, but ice, absolutely.
Okay. Now, those docks are necessary to be there for people to put their boat in the water?
Want to jump in the water.
Yeah, it's a little bit. I mean, obviously, you could certainly put the boat in without it.
Okay.
It's a lot harder because there's nothing to tie the boat off to.
Okay.
There's nothing to sort of walk out on and then jump in the boat. I mean, it's
I wasn't
obviously
sure
a
if
lot more-
there's,
it's a lot more
I haven't been down
dangerous.
there to look at the final
Right.
project, but I didn't know if there's some place they could walk out to get to their boat, or that docks were necessary, 100% necessary to...
It's a lot more dangerous to do it without the docks.
Okay. So that's a reason or not?
So we would recommend people not doing that just because we're, obviously, people are, it's boat at your own risk anyway.
Yes.
But obviously in terms of safety for people, and yeah, I thought obviously, I know there's some diehard fishermen out there, but.
Correct.
I don't know how many people, going out in January or something like that. People do it, I'm sure,
Yeah.
but yeah.
Okay.
We'll go ice fishing.
Oh, yeah, well, good luck.
I'll see you out there.
Yeah.
That's all I had. I just was curious. The trees were the most important part because recently a lot of trees have been falling on everybody's property, and these are the trees of such where I don't care what you're driving, it will kill you. They're monstrous trees, so
Okay.
I just wanted to bring it to your
All right,
attention.
thank you, appreciate
Thank
that.
you.
Okay. Mrs. Wisłowski?
Well, since Mr. Dell was on the boat ramp, I'll begin there. We have so far 79 people that signed up to use it. I don't know how many of those might be residents of Falls, but I don't imagine that all of them are. So we built a boat ramp for 79 people, and it cost us over $1 million. And when I made a speech earlier this evening about no common sense spending the money that I brought into this township, that's a prime example, because we have the Biles Island plan, and we have a marina slated to go in there. So why was it necessary for us to waste all that money on a boat ramp, on access road that has so many potholes you can't even get there? Waste management again comes to our rescue, but it makes no sense. It's a waste of money, $1 million. and we have 80 people. Then there's the telephone that's down there. And the public's pretty upset over that because the cost for that telephone is something close to $500 a month for 79 people, whether they're Falls residents or from Philadelphia or Timbuktu. That makes no sense to me, and it doesn't make any sense to the taxpayers either. So we have one folly after another, and it falls on deaf ears. I was pleased to hear that WMI is going to fix it, but Tullytown has used their money for the people. They haven't given it to the pay-to-play guys. They haven't given it for the useless things that are happening, and I haven't seen them spend money foolishly. We are way overrun on our legal fees that were budgeted, but that's okay because they're stealing the money that's interest on our long-term savings. That's why it hasn't budged for 15 years. They're using it to balance the budget. And that is reprehensible. In 15 years, we could have had millions in that long-term savings, or we could have given it to the citizens. There's 20 million of our money that's invested, and it's not earning any money at all. Pennies. I invite anyone to look at it. When I started examining records, I began asking verbally in January, and I wasn't having much success. So along about July, I started requesting the information. In July, half a year, there is still some information that I have not gotten. And the township's answer, you heard them say at a meeting, if you watch these meetings regularly, that I was given the documents. Not only was I given them, Mr. Clark and Mr. Harvey insisted that they mailed them to each of my homes, the one in Florida and the one here. And I'm here to tell you that I don't lie, and I did not receive them. And I persisted. I did get 95 pages of nothing. It's not anything that you can connect the links in the chain. And that's where it's very upsetting because it makes a very sad picture for the taxpayers of Falls Township who see this junior Obama administration here spending like crazy. And I want to mention Obama in a minute because he's been a disappointment to us all. But not only that, I think he has destroyed the United States because when I wrote a newsletter last time, I said that we were 3 trillion in debt. Excuse me, I misspoke. 3 trillion, and I did the figures of what year we would be if we just paid back the principal. But we are really 14 trillion in debt right now as I speak. And that takes you into beyond how long the earth will last. It's in God's hands. But I can tell you, we'll never see the end of that debt. And I'll have a lot more to say during board comment. I promise you that.
Okay, I know there was one other gentleman who wanted to speak. If you just let us know your name when you're...
My name is Darian Mulner-Port. I'm actually a Morrisville Borough resident and a member of Fallsington Quaker Meeting. I came here this evening just to bring to your attention that the Delaware River Basin Commission will be meeting on November 21st at the Trenton War Memorial. The Delaware River Basin Commission is responsible for the quality and supply of our water. They are meeting on the 21st of November at the Trenton War Memorial in order to consider lifting the current moratorium on natural gas drilling and hydraulic fracking. The lifting of this moratorium may have enormous consequences on the supply and the quality of our water, and certainly in Morrisville and certainly here in Falls Township. And in order to educate the citizens of Falls Township, we'd like to invite you all to come out this Saturday evening, November 5th, 6 to 9 p.m. at Fallsington Quaker Meeting House for a viewing of the film Gasland. Gasland is a documentary about natural gas drilling and hydraulic fracking. As well, we'll be having a discussion that will be facilitated by the Delaware River Keepers. So it should be a very informative and interesting evening. So again, that's this Saturday evening, Fallsington Quaker Meeting House, November 5th, 6 to 9 p.m. It's a no-cost event, and encourage all the citizens to please come on out and join us. In addition to the event this Saturday evening, during the meeting of the Delaware River Basin Commission on November 21st, there'll actually be a rally and demonstration to encourage the Delaware River Basin Commission to not drill the Delaware. So encourage, again, folks to come out November 21st at the Trenton War Memorial to have their say, to encourage the DRBC to continue the moratorium and not drill the Delaware. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you. Is there anyone else interested in speaking? See no hands. Okay, we're going to move on with our agenda. Item 12 is the minutes for October 18th, 2011. Comments or questions regarding the minutes? Mr. Zupke, you were absent from the meeting. I'm assuming that you'll be abstaining?
Correct.
Okay. Mrs. Kozlowski, any comments or questions regarding the minutes for
I'll
October 18th?
be voting no. Our minutes are a disaster. They're supposed to reflect the meaningful things that take place at these meetings. They do not. All one has to do is look at the tape and then see the interpretation given to that. And I can tell you that it's a disaster, but we do have a way to circumvent that, because any time I see something that is incorrect, I note on the tape exactly where it happens, and that's the stuff good books are made of. I have 12 books partially written, and I can't wait to get to Florida and finish them.
Mr. Snipes?
No, Mr. Chairman, they're excellent minutes once again, and I want to thank Mrs. Pullen for her years of sitting through these meetings and really giving us factual minutes and not an interpretation, but the facts as they come forward in our meeting. And if anyone's interested, of course, they can also watch the tapes. But I want to thank her personally for her work.
Mr. Dents?
No.
Okay, and I have no comments. Don't imagine there's any public comment on the minutes. Is there a motion to accept the minutes October 18th, 2011 as presented?
So moved, Mr. Chairman.
Motion made and seconded. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
My vote is absolutely no.
And abstain.
And please write that I claim they are a disaster. I would like that to be reflected at least in one set of minutes.
And abstentions, Mr. Zupke?
Abstain.
Okay. All right, manager comment?
Yes,
Mr. Gray, you're on.
Just a few items tonight. Township did receive a letter from Monsignor McCormack at St. Francis Cabrini. St. Francis Cabrini is in the process of replacing the heating and air conditioning system in the church. They would like to ask the board for consideration to waive the permit fees for the new air and heat system.
Okay, this is something we've done before with various, religious, especially obviously religious organizations. Remember St. Joseph the Worker got a new roof, and we waived the permit fees. So
yes,
I don't imagine there's any comments or questions.
I have a comment, so don't imagine that there is none.
Okay, go ahead.
I called the rectory today, and I spoke with someone whom I presumed was a secretary, and I asked what the date was that the letter was written. And I get all kinds of stuff from this township that's like late and things like that. And something as important as that arrived yesterday in my mail. And I said, when was it written? And they told me on the date of the letter, which I believe was the 12th. Now, I am certainly in favor of waiving those fees, and I intend to make a motion to do so. But I am disturbed that my mail comes in dribs and drabs, and we have people out like road runners that we're paying by the hour to do this kind of Mickey Mouse stuff that ought to be collected, and only something that is urgent should be dispatched by a paid employee to 5 supervisors' houses. A lot of the stuff that I get just it's exasperating. There is no kind of sensible direction that comes from this building. And I'm not faulting the employees, I'm faulting the leadership.
Is there a motion then to grant the waiver for the...
So moved.
For St. Francis Cabrini? Motion made, is there a second?
Second the motion.
Motion made and seconded, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Township also received a letter from Richard J. Lemonowitz, attorney for Liberty Towers, regarding 9188 New Falls Road. He is requesting the board to consider a waiver of time on this application until January 31st, 2012.
Okay. Is there a motion to grant a waiver of time limitations from land development for Liberty Towers, 9188 New Falls Road, till January 31st, 2012?
What parcel is that?
I do not have the tax parcel. I could find that for you.
It's the
location,
one of the homes. It's right near the intersection with Falls Tully Town Road.
Yeah, it's right by Falls Tully Town Road.
Yeah, it's a private home, isn't it?
Yes.
Thank you. I'll move that we grant the waiver of time.
Motion made, is there a second?
I'll second it, Mr. Chairman.
Motion made and seconded, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed?
That's all I have.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Gray. Okay, brings us to board comment. Mr. Dents, comments or questions?
Yes. Something Mr. Obert mentioned earlier, talking about the elections, is the Pinewood Pool polling place. In the past, if you voted at St. Paul's, you'll be voting at Pinewood Pool this year. Another one is Eleanor Roosevelt Elementary School. If you vote at Eleanor Roosevelt, you can no longer access the back of the school from Midway Drive and Winding Way. You actually have to go around to Walton Drive to vote. So both are have been changed. I don't know if all of the residents that live and vote in those places were notified or not. Hopefully they can get the message. Also, next Friday after Election Day is Veterans Day. And this is our last meeting before then, so take a minute to honor your veterans, you know, in your life however you can. And that's all I have.
Okay, thank you. Mrs. Wisłowski?
Yes. Ever since I got on this board, almost at every meeting when I've complained about how the money was spent, I made the statement that it was I who negotiated the contracts with Waste Management. I did that while I was a private citizen, not a member of this board, even though I had served back in the 70s a full term. Now, I am once again being called a liar, and almost at every meeting, especially by Mr. Harvey and our erstwhile solicitor, Mr. Clark, who isn't even a resident of Falls Township, and I'm not positive he even lives in Bucks County, has an address of Philadelphia, so that could be Timbuktu as far as I am concerned. But I have realized how we can resolve this dispute. And since I'm leaving this board on December 31st of this year, and happily leaving, I can tell you that I will not go with mud on the Wisłowski name that was put there by people who aren't even worth one of my clipped toenails. Now, I can tell you that these people who call me a liar are themselves the biggest liars I've ever encountered, but name-calling never resolves anything. What I propose is a very easy solution. We all seem to like waste management, and there are some questions that waste management needs to be asked. One of them was, who negotiated the contracts and what people were present because those contracts were not negotiated with the board members. Those board members came from the Falls Township Democratic Club, and I never say Democratic Club without saying corrupt Democratic Club, and I happen to be and have been a registered Democrat in this township. But I can tell you that I would not have anything to do with that organization. I have been opposed to the thieves and the liars who abound in that club. Now, the way we resolve this is for someone to do some reporting and call Waste Management and ask the correct questions. Don't ask who ratified it, because we had to snooker the ones on the board and make them think the first contract was negotiated by Al Wilson, who was a board member. But Alan Wilson was with me because he hated the landfill. And so he was opposed to it, and I thought, all right, we are $32 million in debt. That board had just adjourned for the year in 1995. And if we deny their expansion and they sue us, then we don't have the money to take on a giant like Waste Management. So they turned it down, adjourned for the year, and I called and got Jay Rooney, who was the top representative this side of the Mississippi for Waste Management, and invited him to come to my home and talk about the landfill. And I asked Alan Wilson to come because Alan Wilson was a member of this board, and I was going to need him to make the representation that it was his idea to do that. And he sold that to the board and got the then chairman of the board to call a special meeting, and I believe it was December 28th that 1995 agreement was ratified by the Board of Supervisors, but the only supervisor who had anything to do with bringing a dime in was Alan Wilson. And I make that statement tonight, and I'm going to back it up. It's called putting your money where your mouth is, and I want to see these guys do it. Now, the second agreement was 2001, and that was negotiated with no member of the Board of Supervisors. I was not on the board at the time, but I represented a position for the taxpayers of this Falls Township. And that is the agreement that we are getting all this money from now, that I think this board is wasting and misspending and campaigning with it and overpaying a solicitor who doesn't even know Robert's Rules of Order, let alone legal decisions here. Right now, he didn't know that a board member has the right and a responsibility to read financial records, but he's researching it at the behest of the board. And I want to know when they decided to hire him, because you can't hire him at a private meeting, and it isn't a legal question. It's just a question of if or not an elected member of the Board of Supervisors is permitted to read records that it is her responsibility to read. So we are still using that money that Dorothy Veslowski negotiated, and it's coming into this township and being spent like drunken sailors. And excuse me, Gallus, I know that you don't like that expression, but my husband was a sailor too, and he wasn't a drunk. Anyhow, I am making the statement adamantly that I brought in that money to this township. And each time I am told that I'm a liar, and the gavel comes up and the meeting gets shut down, or they overtalk, And so I'm waiting until board comment tonight to say emphatically, you will scrub the mud off my name, because I'm going to get you guys in court and take depositions. And if you want to perjure yourself, that's okay. Mr. Clark can lose his law license because he's an officer of the court. And if he doesn't tell the truth, then we will be able to pursue that further. And I believe that if Mr. Harvey doesn't tell the truth, he would be forbidden to hold office. But that's 2 hurdles ahead of us here. We're only addressing now how we can get waste management to get into the act and state who negotiated those contracts. And so I challenge this board and any other individual in this room to call Waste Management. Do not ask who voted to ratify, ask who voted to make the agreement with Waste Management. They have been honorable. I trust them. And they didn't pay me a cent, and I make that statement also. So I claim ownership of the 1995 agreement with Al Wilson and the 2001 agreement, which I represented the township as a single individual, and also make the statement that I never was paid a dime, never asked for a dime. I did it because I love the people in this community, and I feel sorry for all my friends and neighbors that don't know what's going on in the school district and in this township. Now, I challenge you. I am offering to take the deed to my property at 725 Trenton Road, a house which I own singly because my husband is deceased. His name was on that deed. And it was appraised at $250,000. And I am pledging that house, and I intend to back it up with an affidavit. And I'm going to give that house, to the deed to that house and the affidavit, to a neutral party that will hold it until we resolve this once and for all. It can be resolved with one phone call if someone has the gumption to call Waste Management and get the facts. And I will gladly donate that house to Operation Smile. Dr. Bill McGee, who has donated his time and his life to fixing cleft palates from children who are born with severely deformed mouths and noses. Some of them have their front teeth coming out of their nostrils, and parents, when they take these children out, have to put a paper bag over their head so that they won't be ridiculed. And when these operations are performed, the children are so beautiful. It just, when I look at the before and after, I cry from happiness. No money is paid to the professionals who perform these operations. They go all over the world. And Bill McGee lives in Norfolk, Virginia, and he was on national television with my grandson, and that's how I learned about Operation Smile. It costs $240 of incidental expenses to fix one of these deformed children, and not one dime goes to any individual as a salary or payment. And so that house will be gladly given by me to Operation Smile if Mr. Harvey can prove that I told a lie about who brought that money into this township. And Mr. Harvey, if I can prove that you lied, what are you willing to donate to any charity of your choice?
Is that the end of your comment, Mrs.?
No, I'm not finished. I just asked you a question.
I've donated quite a lot of time and energy listening to you for the past 8 years. I think I've probably deserve something more than the house you have at Trenton Road.
You don't get the house at Trenton Road. I wouldn't give you the time of day. You're one of the things that's a cancer in this town with your lies.
Thank you.
that you are.
Are you finished your comment, Ms.
No, I'm not finished. I'm waiting for you to lie again so I can add that to the list. But I'm tired of fencing with you, and I'm tired of people ignoring the truth. And I'm absolutely determined that I will get the mud scrubbed off my name, thrown on there primarily by you, but your corrupt Democratic club, and now you have the teachers union, and you're raising the funds. I didn't even bother to bring the political stuff. I don't want to go on the school board. I'll go if the people want me to go, but I didn't ask for the job, but I sure as hell will do it if I go there. I'd rather be in Florida finishing my books and telling the public what you forked-tongued rascals have been telling as lies. So we're going to start with the major lie. You're spending money I brought in, and I challenge you to call Waste Management and get a verification. And I'm surprised that people who claim they're reporters have not thought to ask the legal department of Waste Management. And gee, you even went off to Korea with Tom Jennings, who used to be the chief counsel. He no longer is. There's a man named John Scatalis who replaced him, and there was a reason. So I'm content to have you call Tom Jennings, because I'd like to include him in the depositions. So I think I'm finished. I will answer if you tell another lie. I guarantee you I will claim more of my board comment. So tread easily, Mr. Harvey, because I've had it with you. You almost got smacked with that gavel last time because I can't bear your lies. And I prayed not to hit you with it because I've never been physical. I have never spanked my children, and it would be a terrible disgrace to give you what you deserve for the evil that comes out of that mouth of yours. Now, go ahead and answer me, because I am going to prove you to be the liar you are. You think you're playing to rave reviews. Well, we'll find out. I think if the truth accidentally escaped from your lips, we'd have snow in July. I'm finished temporarily. And I forgot to tell the people that every time he raises that gavel, our township cameraman is forced to shut down the meeting. And he has done that consistently every time I have tried to tell the public things like the pension fund for the police is woefully underfunded. And I have those documents. Nobody has ever called me stupid. I don't go out on a limb and saw the limb off so that I fall. I make sure that I have the proofs before I open my mouth. Unlike some of the Harvey clan that gets here, and I want to answer them whenever they talk and say, it's better to remain silent and appear stupid than to speak and remove all doubt. Because they get up here and they say the ridiculous attacks that they're coached to do, and they find out they're out on the limb, and I've got the saw. You may now contradict me, Mr. Harvey.
Mr. Zupko, board comment?
Yes. A couple important days coming up. We have, as Mr. Dents mentioned, Veterans Day coming up. The military, our servicemen, are out there. Servicemen and women are out there. And I didn't make this saying up, but I've seen it in different places, and it's with the military. All gave some have given all, and I'm sure our service people for the next date that's coming up is Election Day. They will say the same thing. Everybody should get out and vote. It is your responsibility to do it, to go out. Try to learn as much as you can. Pick the people that you want, that you feel comfortable with, and cast your vote for them. And the last date, which is actually sooner than the other two, is it's a 100th birthday for baseball, apple pie, and Chevrolet started and November 3rd, 1911, with a Louis Chevrolet, who actually is not French. He was born in Sweden. So, that's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you. Excuse me, Mr. Snipes.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, thank you, and thank you for mostly a productive meeting this evening. I just wanted to mention a couple of things that we were able to achieve tonight. The approval of the conditional hearing for CSC Sugar, which was a pretty interesting presentation by them about their food production. And as I said before, I think it's great they're locating in Falls Township and bringing more employment to residents of Falls, hopefully. Also, our approval of the finalizing of the award for the bid for the senior center. I'm glad to see that moving forward, and also finalizing the award for the bid for the Babe Ruth baseball field at Quaker Penn Park. I think those are all things that we should feel good about in Falls Township. I also want to agree with comments that have been made about Election Day coming up next Tuesday, November 8th, and the importance of getting out and electing, not just for Board of Supervisor and statewide elections, but also really crucially for our school board. Very important elections, so I hope people will come out. Then just one last thing. I've been on the board for 9 years. There were comments made tonight about the amount of money in our long-term savings not increasing in recent years. When I came on the board 9 years ago, I believe there was approximately $15 million in our long-term restricted savings. That's probably right, Mr. Gray. And now there are 32 million. So obviously the money has been invested well and has been added to over the years. Those are just the facts. Anyone can contact the township. That's public information. They can ask for it and receive it.
Do you want to bet a house?
So I think that Mr. Gray is happy to speak with anyone. I know we have budget conversations coming up for next year's budget, so I'm looking forward to talking with Mr. Gray about that. I hope all board members have received their invitation to talk with Mr. Gray to set up our budget for next year, because that's where our financial priorities are made. So, thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you.
I'd like to ask our secretary to make sure that she records that when Mr. Snipes came on the board, there was $15 million in our long-term savings, because we want to make sure that we pinpoint who spent the money that used to be $32 million whenever the 1995 waste management money started to come in, because there was $32 million.
I suppose for the record, it's fair to say that before Mr. Snipes came on, I think all 5 members of the board were actually people supported by Mrs. Kozlowski. So sometime before he came on board, apparently $17 million went missing. And obviously $17 million has been put back in since then. All right. Just want to bring up a few things. I had a resident who called me, complained about an issue, and I guess obviously this is the time of year, considering Mischief Night a few nights ago, of vandalism on property, things of that nature. It's egging houses and toilet papering houses and things of that. It's been going on for decades and decades, but there's always a limit to what is fun and what is destructive, a lot of this issue, and she was talking about her property and where she lived in the township, and there was an issue with houses being vandalized. Not certainly, I think, an epidemic, but certainly you go around, and I saw just an area this morning in the Thornwood Shopping Center where I saw some graffiti that I hadn't noticed before. It could be that I just didn't pick up on it, but certainly something that we have kids, and certainly kids are no different now, and I'm a firm believer of this than they were at any point in history. Every generation looks back on the younger generation below it or coming up and thinks, oh, well, they're, look how lazy they are. But that really is just a standard thing. I think everybody does that. But it's important for us to raise our children well and teach them to appreciate private property and to respect everybody's private property. It's probably not something they understand, because obviously they're not the ones who put in a lot of the work on the property. They haven't paid for it. They haven't done a lot of the upkeep. The house across the street doesn't have the kind of meaning to them that it would obviously to people who live there and built it. But it's important that we help each other out, look out for each other's properties, and certainly if you see issues of vandalism, see issues of graffiti, contact the police department. It doesn't have to be a 911 issue, of course. You can contact the regular number here at the township and communicate that information. A few other things. The New Falls Road Bridge, as was referenced earlier, is open. It took about 9 weeks, I guess it was, for that project, and it just kind of occurred to me, there were certainly some people who complained. The gentleman who was here earlier was here a few weeks ago complaining about, what an inconvenience it was for him to have to, go through different areas. But it made me think about how many years, decades, people used that bridge and never gave it a second thought. And for about 9 weeks, there was an inconvenience, and now probably for the next 30 years or so, there's, people will be able to use it, and will probably by, the end of this month forget about the fact that they even had to be inconvenienced for those couple of weeks. Certainly everybody remembers the issue in the bridge collapse in Minneapolis. I guess it was maybe 3 or 4 years ago, and the people who died there. And right after that, there were reports in all the media, and the Courier-Times did a big thing on how many bridges in Bucks County were deficient, and there were quite a few in Falls, and they're getting fixed. And so that's one of the things with an infrastructure like this one. We have an extensive road network. It's old. We've repaved most of the roads in Falls Township. We're going to continue and hopefully in the next few years finish that program. But obviously there are state roads as well and bridges. All the Tyburn Road bridges have been replaced. That should be done by the end of this year. We're hoping. There's one last bridge over the Amtrak lines on Tyburn that is not going to be fixed as quickly, but it's a much more complicated issue because it goes over the Amtrak lines. You can't reroute trains. They don't react well to detours. But also we do have a bridge that's going to be under reconstruction, I should say, on Trenton Road between South Queen Anne and Canterbury. That goes over the creek there. That bridge will be shut down sometime in the near future. I know there's a bridge further up Trenton Road in Middletown near the baseball fields where it hits Woodburn Road. There's a bridge there that's been out, and I know in talking with PennDOT that they are reluctant, for obvious reasons. They don't want to have two bridges down on the same road simultaneously. So when that one opens up, which I think what was told is going to be relatively soon, maybe the end of this month or so, November, then the one here in Falls is probably going to start undergoing some construction, and hopefully it's a smooth process. Hopefully it takes 2 months, which is the I think the guidelines that they put out there, the time period they shoot for, and just it's not an impossible thing to kind of reroute yourself for a couple of weeks, and then once the bridge is fixed, you can forget about it and just sort of go along using that road as you always have. But that's one of the things we have to do in our society is, we be inconvenienced for a little bit, and then we get it fixed and everything's fine. A few other things just in Falls Township. A reminder that the recycling program, the new recycling program, is a month old today. And what I know we had a gentleman here from Waste Management back in, I guess it was September. I think it was late September, who came in and told us basically that this new recycling program, and I've seen it just in my house, you can recycle a tremendous amount more than you used to be able to. Cardboard of any kind, cereal boxes, the cardboard containers that orange juice and milk come in, the half gallons, you can recycle all that. You don't have to separate it, doesn't have to go to separate piles. I've seen just at my house, instead of putting out one recycling can and 2 trash cans, I've actually had to make one of my trash cans a recycling can. And I'm putting out 2 full cans of just recycling. When you throw all the boxes in there and everything else, you'll use pizza and other kind of, go to one of the pizza places around here and get a pizza box, you can recycle it. And again, newspapers, any kind of paper, you can just throw in there and you don't have to bag it anymore, put it in. Obviously make sure there's a lid on it because you don't want paper flying out all over the place. We do still offer recycling cans here, I think just the normal ones, but you can use any can actually. Any trash can just has to be marked as recycling. Whether I've seen some people actually painting the word recycling on the side of the can. It doesn't have to be the typical green recycling can to be used for recycling. As long as the people coming around picking it up know what's trash, what's recycling, that's all they care about. And so that's obviously something that Township actually gets reimbursed for that, depending on how much recycling we produce. There are funds that come back from Waste Management, so it's something we'd encourage people to do. Also, leaf collection here at the Township. 3 collections, I believe, starting next week, correct?
Yeah, there's 2 in November, 1 in December.
Right, I think it's like every other week starting next week, and it's usually the day after your recycling. If you want to have leaves out in bags or in cans uncovered on those days, put out as many bags and leaves as you want in cans and bags, and they'll take everything you have. And there's, again, like Mr. Gray said, 2 collection dates in November and 1 in December. Just a little bit reminder, the issue brought up earlier, the gentleman here talking about natural gas and fracking, which has become kind of a very controversial issue. Pennsylvania appears to be sitting on, not appears, is sitting on one of the largest deposits of natural gas anywhere. It extends through West Virginia up, I believe, into New York. It's not just here, but quite a few people in upstate Pennsylvania are already selling off pieces of their property to companies that are coming and mining. And one of the issues that's becoming controversial is the way the gas is obtained. Fracking involves drilling down into these areas where the natural gas is, pumping down chemicals and water, forcing that gas back up. There are some people believe that there's a danger involved with bringing that water and those chemicals back up. How much of it is, safely removed from the earth? How much of it, there's a concern that it could get into groundwater? Obviously, there are going to be different opinions about how safe it is. It's not necessarily brand new technology. I mean, it's being used currently. So, as we said before about voting, be informed. Look up information wherever you can. Hopefully trustworthy sources of information, because we know, especially with the internet, anybody can put anything up that they want to. And there is obviously this video that's going to be offered on Saturday for people that are interested, and certainly encourage people to go out and take a look and find out information for themselves and help make that decision. A couple of people have already mentioned Veterans Day. Obviously, thanking anybody who served in the military, whether it was in war or in peace, any branch. Current, obviously, Memorial Day is always for those who have paid the ultimate sacrifice. And so thank a veteran. We see a lot of the bumper stickers, things like freedom isn't free. It also reminds me, anybody, if you have an old flag that you need to dispose of, remember to dispose of it properly. The American Legion Post in Fallsington has a container on the side of their building. It's actually an old mailbox container that is a depository for retired flags, and then they dispose of them properly the way the flag is supposed to be disposed of. I know mine is getting chewed up from the weather, and so I just put mine in there last week, and I have to get another one now. For some people that might have bought the flag around Memorial Day and put it up, and now it's October or November and it's starting to get a little chewed up, and you want to know what to do with it, you can take it to the American Legion Post, just drop it off there. And finally, just an announcement on behalf of the Levittown Fire Company. They are having an event on November 12th, which is a Saturday, at their site on Colonial Hall, in Colonial Hall rather, on Falls Tullytown Road. It's a murder mystery dinner from 6:30 to 11. It's a $30 ticket. There's all kinds of pretty good food on here. I know we've all each been at Levittown Fire Company for different occasions, and they do a very, very good job. You don't leave wanting more, that's for sure. But it is a murder mystery based around the American Idol kind of thing. It's I'll read the flyer here. I was asked to read. It's the final night of Big American Star, and America is going to vote to get a chance to vote for its next Big American Star. The contestants are at each other's throats, dangerously close to ripping out one another's vocal cords, while the judges and hosts stir up drama to boost sagging ratings. By the time the contestants are ready to sing, the atmosphere has turned murderous, and the contestants may knock them dead in more ways than one. Join us for a fun-filled evening of murder, mayhem, and delicious food. But that, again, is Saturday, November 12th, okay, from 6:30 to 11. The show actually starts at 7 o'clock, Falls Tullytown Road. This is Levittown Fire Company, obviously one of our volunteer fire companies that does a great job at keeping us safe. And these, again, are your neighbors and your friends. For tickets, more information, 215-450-8912. There's also another number, 215-945-4231. And finally, 215-791-1309. And this information will also be on our website, if anybody's interested. And with that, I will ask for a motion to adjourn.
I'd like equal time, Mr. Harvey.
Mrs. Lasky,
I know. You used the gavel
I'd like
to get to
I'd like
edit.
to make a motion to adjourn the meeting, Mr. Chairman.
But I want people to watch the tape and time him.
Thank you.